Hi, and thank you for joining us today on the Road to Recovery. I'm your host, Ronda Jackson, serial entrepreneur and small business advocate. And today's guest is Miss Sacsha Flowers. Welcome, Sacsha.
Hello.
Sacsha is a founder and career coach of Nuphase Creative. Welcome, Miss Sacsha.
Thank you for
And
having me.
oh no, you're welcome. I mean, when we have a timely discussion about our most phenomenal resource as entrepreneurs, which is our human capital, our people, our teams that make us who we are, I could not have thought of a better expert on guiding those teams and leading them, while we're on the road to recovery. So thank you again for being here. So for the audience and the entrepreneurs that aren't familiar with you and your work, do you mind telling us a little bit more about you and New Face Creative?
Sure.
So Sacsha, tell us a little bit more about New Face Creative and what you do.
Yeah, so as Rhonda said, I am the founder and CEO of Nuphase Creative, and it is basically a coaching company for fashion designers or fashion creatives who have worked in the industry, who are entering or looking to transition out of the industry. I have successfully made a career transition not once, but 2 times in my life. So I pretty much gear my coaching to help others do the same, primarily within fashion or outside of fashion.
Oh, that's beautiful work. I'm so excited to have you here today. And so I know you've watched the show before. And so one of the things that I like to do is to ask guests, what's one word you would use to describe today? How would you describe now?
Say resiliency.
Okay, say more. Why resilient?
The reason being is because right now we're just in a time of uncertainty. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen next. And I feel we're at a time where we really need to be on our P's and Q's to know, what's next for me? What is that next step? That happens a lot of times with clients that I come encounter with where they're in a period right now where they might have been furloughed or laid off, and they really are trying to figure out what's the next step in their life. So I pride myself on just being resilient at all times, no matter what the odds are against you, really being able to hold your own and focus on the next goal in your life.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And so then
No
speaking
problem.
of goals, as we have goals, not only for ourselves and our businesses, but for the people that are on our team, the people that have us really deliver what we produce, how would you say we start the steps of our team building, of attracting, retaining a quality talent pool?
Yeah, so when it comes to building a team, I feel it's super important to, whether you have a team built already or in the process of building a team, it's important to hire people who you know are going to make your team whole, who are going to bring a skill to the table that you may not possess yourself, especially if you're a small business, that is going to really just help round you out. Say if you already had a small team, looking at, what are some of the best assets that this person is offering right now? What are the capacity they're working in at this current moment? Is it still a need? Is it to their best capacity? And if it's not, how could it help my company or organization the more? So it's really just taking the time to assess it.
Okay, and the assessment. All right. And then,
Hmm.
so I guess in that assessment too, you'll see where your gaps are to see
Yes,
the next hire or the next skill set that you need to add to the team. So I like that as an
definitely.
assessment. So then what's next? So we've assessed it, we figured out our gaps, we've got our, A team players, our B team players, and our, backup bench. What do we do next?
Next, again, I would just really look at specifically what each person is doing and what they're bringing to the table. And I think it's still even more assessment, because as teams are now having to either downsize in a lot of ways or rethink about their businesses as a whole and what things like product offerings, if it's a service or what they want to still offer at the end of the day.
Okay.
So it's really just looking at, what each role is doing, how they are performing, and what the ultimate need is. And if there is a team or area that you want to downsize or, no longer have or can no longer do, what are some of the other areas that those people can work to help the business?
Okay. And so
Mhm.
I hear you saying that there's a certain amount of dialogue that you need to have back and forth
Definitely.
and to also create that atmosphere. Can you talk a little bit more about that dialogue? what components of that conversation need to really be brought out and honed in order to make that successful assessment?
Yes. So it really just boils down to clear communication for managers to really understand what their team is currently working on, what they're able to do, and what are some of the tools that are needed in order to do it. And then from there, really figure out what their interests are. I feel a lot of companies, especially the larger the company, they sort of lose touch with really communicating with the frontline workers and understanding on a day-to-day what they do
Mhm.
and how to best utilize their skill and services. So it's really just getting a chance to sit down, have a candid conversation about possibly where the company is at that time. When you're a smaller company, you have the advantage because it won't take as many rounds of doing it.
Right.
It's really going back to almost like family style, like when businesses were ran as like family businesses, and you getting a chance to really get to know each individual person and then seeing where you can slot them into your company and seeing what their interests are, what they want to do at the end of the day. And if you could make it work, that's even the better.
Even the better. So everybody wins. I love that.
Everybody
So
wins.
what I'm hearing too is almost an because we're on the road to recovery. That's what we're
Hmm.
calling it. This journey to get to wherever your destination is as an entrepreneur. So if that's succession planning to move on to your next phase of life, if it's
Hmm.
growing your business, and
Hmm.
it sounds like you need the contribution from these individuals along the way to get there. There's some survival mechanisms that I hear also built into this conversation
Yes.
because you pointed out it can't be a single conversation. There's
Mm-mm.
several rounds of it, but then developmentally, are there other conversations that happen along the way?
Developmentally, other conversations that happen along the way. I would say yes. I would say instead of just depending on the manager's job, to come to their team and figure out what their needs and wants are, I think there's a term that I heard in the industry and I used to despise it, but I actually have come to respect it. It's managing up. It's also the employees managing up to their supervisors in terms of, what, I kind of see what's happening out there with the industry right now. I'm not quite sure where we stand in that if it hasn't already been communicated to you as an employee, and then you kind of commanding what do you want to do next. So if you know that layoffs are about to happen, furloughs are about to happen, or there's a chance of the business possibly closing, how could you help to save the business? Ideas are key. So again, going back to a smaller company, it's really your advantage being in smaller companies because I feel that there's more listening power that's really built in if management allows for it and creates a culture where it is for that, where it's literally a roundtable discussion of, what, I'm only able to share this bit of piece of information with you as far as what's going on business wise, but really crowdsourcing and figuring out what are some things that we can improve or other business opportunities that are out there that we haven't thought about before. So it's really the responsibility, I would say, from a communication standpoint on both sides.
Right. I like that.
Hmm.
So then what I also hear you saying is that we're going to get to a point where we're thriving, right?
Yes.
Where the team is running and it's operating, change happens. But how
Hmm.
do we know what's one real litmus for knowing that if we have a successful team building environment? And I'm saying as we add and subtract, depending on
Yes.
the circumstance in our business.
I would say what really creates that is the company and their culture that they've established and the trust that they're establishing for their team.
Okay.
Just as much as the team having trust in their managers. There's something really powerful behind that. So that way together, the company can thrive. If you don't have trust, then you don't really have anything. So it's really figuring out how to establish that trustworthy environment where employees feel comfortable to be able to go to. If you're as large as having an HR team, they're comfortable going to a manager, an HR team, or a leader of that team in any type of a capacity, and really just share their thoughts and or I would say even their pain points.
Got
Sometimes it's very uncomfortable to share um, some of the issues that employees might be having, but if you create an environment where they feel safe, they feel supported,
it.
that is ultimately a thriving team to me.
I love that. I love that. I love those as earmarks. And I noticed how you didn't even make it about the company. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the person. It's about the individual and the
Yes.
deposits in them. So that is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely wonderful. So
Mm-hmm.
then let's make it actionable. I really like things where we can take it and apply it to our businesses today. What's one thing that you would tell every business owner after they click subscribe down below? What's one thing that you would tell them to do?
Yes. So the one thing that ultimately comes to mind, again, it goes back to the communication piece. If you have not, if you've evaluated your business and you're seeing that there's some areas that are not quite working, I'm encouraging all managers to reach out to their teams and figure out what are some of the things we can do to build back up this business or pivot, especially at a time of uncertainty, because you'll be surprised. A lot of employees, even if they're the lowest on the totem pole, will have sometimes that $1 million opportunity or idea that they bring to the table that will save the business,
I love.
especially when you're a small company. Be open to ideas, because this is a time where we can't afford to just have limited thinking.
Mhm.
It has to be limitless.
Yeah, I think a theme just throughout the world right now is diversity of thought, right?
Diversity of thought.
Diversity
Exactly.
of thought, having all those contributions. And that's what teamwork is about. It's about everybody
Yes.
bringing the best of themselves to the table. No, this has been
Exactly.
wonderful. So, if we have entrepreneurs established or emerging that are looking to get some assistance building out those teams and doing the assessments, what's the best way to contact you for assistance or help?
Yes. So the best way to contact me is at Nuphase Creative on Instagram. That's at Nuphase Phase Creative. You can find me on IG, or I'm also listed on LinkedIn under the same header at Nuphase Creative. That's pretty much the best two ways to get in touch with me.
Okay, no, that's perfect. And we'll put all those links down below, no problem. And I just really, really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. This is a journey that we need all of the expert opinions that we can get and contributions to helping our businesses thrive in this time. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.